Hi, everybody. Welcome to our next episode of Obscure Animation. We are here to talk about underrated, underappreciated, obscure animation.
Unknown.
I know. And it's really fun. It's something I love doing every month. And I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and my friend Stanford always does this every month.
Hey, nice
Yes.
to talk with you.
Yes. Yeah, we've done like 30 of these now. Can you believe it?
Can you believe it?
Yeah, it's crazy.
All the cool films that you've introduced me to.
Yeah, yeah, I love doing it. I mean, none of these ever get like huge numbers, but I just enjoy it so much that I don't care because I like doing
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, we've really seen some wonderful,
Seen some really
wonderful
interesting,
films.
yeah.
And it's
Kind of
really
run the
fun.
gamut.
Yeah, it's really fun when one of those old reviews, somebody will come on and I'll get a random comment every now and then on one of them, and I'll be like, oh yeah, we had a comment this week about Louise by the Shore. Someone talked about
Right,
it, and I was like, oh,
yes.
that was such a good movie. That was so much fun to talk about.
Yeah, that is such a good movie.
Yeah. So if you have any ideas, please let us know your suggestions for obscure animation. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And today we're diving into studio. We've done one other, actually our first, it's kind of appropriate because our very first film that we did
Oh, that's
together
right.
was a Rankin Bass film.
Yeah, it was a TV special.
Yeah, it was the
Yeah,
year without Santa Claus. I believe was that one with
yes,
the Miser brothers.
yes.
And and yeah, it's kind of interesting with Rankin Bass because I I kind of got sort of soured on them a little bit when I kind of feel like I have a little bit of a different experience than most people because they'll just see a short here, a short there at Christmas. Well, I decided one year this was like 2015, I think. I decided that I was going to review them all for Christmas. It was going to be like
Oh,
a thing on my
wow.
blog. Yeah, and I didn't make it.
Ambitious.
I didn't make it. It was ambitious, but I got about I think I don't know if I even got to Rudolph. I just really wasn't enjoying it. And I found that I don't know that what is sort of charming all by itself as one little short, the sort of the way that they're sort of in your face weird, like
Mm-hmm.
even in the Rudolph one, like the Isle of Misfit Toys and the one that wants to be the dentist, and all of that it's just so like we're trying to be different and weird,
Right.
that when you see a bunch of them and you see how cheap they are and you see how kind of cheap the music is, and they're all very similar songs, it just feels like watching a bunch of Happy Meal ads
Mm-hmm.
in a movie. And what's really funny is, so I had done, I don't know, 15 maybe 20
So was
reviews.
this, you were watching all of their TV holiday specials? Is that what you
Yes.
were? Okay.
Yeah. And I even did The Hobbit,
Oh,
and
wow.
so it wasn't
Okay.
only holiday, but that was my original goal. And but what's really funny is I kind of forgot that I had done those. And when I got when I got approved on Rotten Tomatoes, I said, you guys, I'm going to let you upload all of my reviews onto the site, and I'll do the new ones. You do all of my old ones, both on YouTube and on my blog. And so some poor soul had to listen to all of these podcasts and all of these reviews and everything that I'd done over years. And they did the same with the blog. And one day, one of my friends was like, you gave a negative review to Frosty the Snowman? And I was like, I did. And I go look on my Rotten Tomatoes, and there it is. And they'd uploaded all of those ratings.
That is so great.
So yeah, I'm like
Well,
the only one who's probably critical of Frosty the Snow. And I'm
well,
like, Miss Christmas, you know?
that is
So,
so great. Well, that really is ambitious because they made a lot. Like, how many TV specials were there
there
that
were
you
a
were on your
lot.
list? That you were
Yeah.
planning to watch.
Let's see how
Do you
many I got.
recall?
I don't. Let's see how many I got through in the project. Let's see. I only got through 12, so I didn't even make it that far.
That's a lot, though, because
uh,
I'm with you. You kind of watch these and you go into a time warp, but not a good time warp.
no.
Well, and you were a good sport to watch these features that we're going to talk about. So I love the Turner Classic Movies cable
Yeah.
network, and they've got some really interesting programmers. I mean, are the people? I think that they really try to do a good job about bringing all sorts of variety to that network. I mean, they've got a lot of time to program too. I mean, it's 24/7 commercial free, basically. It's
Right.
other than their own commercials, but still, I got to tell you, I had no idea that Rankin Bass actually made feature films that got put into theaters. I only knew them from their TV work, and that's all I had seen. Were of course, Rudolph and The Year Without a
Yeah.
Santa Claus. Those.
Once I got to Pinocchio's Christmas, that was the breaking point.
Oh
I
wow,
was Pinocchio's
that just
Pinocchio's Christmas.
oh my stars,
Pinocchio,
are you kidding me?
Pinocchio's Christmas took me to a dark place that I have rarely
Oh,
been.
how could
It
it
was
not? I mean, that just sounds
so it
horrible.
was so bad. And then they have one called The Stingiest Man in Town. And you know me and Christmas carols. But
Yeah.
I said I can't deal with it because the eyes were so weird looking.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and then the Leprechaun's Christmas. Leprechaun's
Woo.
Christmas and Pinocchio's Christmas were the double header of awfulness that I couldn't take anymore.
I gotta tell you, they were so prolific, and frankly, I wonder if that's why the quality is the way it is. Because they were just cranking out stuff, but maybe it's like Jurassic Park. Didn't question if they didn't question if they should, rather than if they could. Right? You do all this
Yeah.
stuff, all these movies, because so Turner Classic Movies, they played 3 Rankin Bass feature films
Yeah.
from the 1960s on the other night, and you and I both recorded 3 of them, and then I think both of us, we only watched 2.
Yeah.
And that was all I could take.
Because they're just not good. I they have good things about them, but they feel so derivative and devoid of any kind of creativity. And it feels like such an attempt to kind of ape other studios and other films. And I don't know, they feel like a Happy Meal kind of a thing,
Mm-hmm.
like a Happy Meal toy.
Yeah, no, that's a really good way to
Something
put it.
that's just sort of cheap.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was just trying to picture, because again, I'm just familiar with their TV work, right? Up until this point. And I was just trying to picture, as I was watching these movies we recorded off of TCM, would I have liked to have seen this in the theater? I think the answer would have been no.
No.
Even as a child, I'm not sure that I would have enjoyed seeing these films on the big screen.
I think that the Mad Monster Party is much better.
Agreed.
I think, than the Daydreamer one.
I agree. So yeah, those are the 2 that we watched, right? The Daydreamer from 1966 and then Mad Monster Party from 1967.
It's just, I guess the thing is that there's just a difference between when somebody is being creative and someone is trying to appear creative. And that's what you get with all of the Rankin Bass films. Like, they're just not good. Like, even the shorts, like, at least the shorts are short.
I know. Thank
But
goodness. There's like 22 minutes, right? Like, yes, you're
yeah,
grateful.
there's a heart to him that's missing to me. There's a weight to him, a we're trying to them that I just don't get.
Yeah.
And maybe something is slightly lost in translation a little bit. Because I mean, I think that most of them were made in Japan.
Yeah, I
And
think all their their stop motion animation, which they called Animagic, I
right.
believe that was all done out of a single studio or other studios in Japan.
Yeah.
But they were written by
Like,
I think most of them written by Arthur Rankin Jr. and
mhm.
then directed by Jules Bass.
Because if you compare even their shorts to, say, the Nutcracker that we watched from Russia,
Yeah.
like that had so much more sort of artistry and soul
Yeah.
to it to
Yeah,
me.
there was a certain there as you said there's this heart to it that you could tell even though it was
Yeah.
very unusual, particularly I think to my Western sensibilities,
Right.
but still I'm with you. It was so compelling. There's so much heart. And as I was watching, I'm with you, particularly, I guess, with both, but particularly the Daydreamer. I just could never catch it. Catch the vision, or maybe there just wasn't a vision to catch. You just like, what is this
Yeah.
thing?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. The I think that some of the people in Rankin Bass, if I'm not mistaken, actually then went on to work on the Lupin film with Miyazaki,
oh,
I believe.
oh, cool. Okay,
Yeah, that there was some moving over
yeah,
after that, and because this is 1966, of course, that would have been a bit later that they would have had the Lupin. What was that, like 78 or 79, something like
yes,
that?
I
Yeah.
believe.
And so that in the Daydreamer, it's part live action, part stop motion. I
Which
mean,
I had no
yeah, stop
idea
motion.
either
Oh yeah,
until it
yeah.
started. Like, wait a minute. Well, I guess until Ben Mankiewicz talked about it,
Oh
in his
yeah,
intro of the film on TCM. He's the TCM
yeah.
host.
And this is directed by Jules Bass, by
Yeah,
from Rankin Bass.
yeah,
And yeah, they have their animagic. And uh, these were definitely geared towards kids.
right.
And I don't know. I just figure I think kids will be really bored
Well,
watching
I
this
thought
movie.
yeah, exactly. And same thing, because again, this Daydreamer, I mean, it's what, like an hour and 40 minutes.
It's long. Yeah.
Yeah, and it just goes on and on, and
It's
just think,
long and it's very morose. I mean, we were just doing an episode on the Rescuers, and that movie is pretty morose, but I mean, gosh, every single one of these short stories ends badly.
I know. Well, and the live action versus then the animated, the animagic scenes, they're kind of random. I mean, because he got
Yeah,
such a random cast
I
to
know.
to star in both to do
Yeah,
voices and then the live action.
because you have Hans Christian Andersen, Christian as a little kid.
Yeah, he's a little boy, right? What do you think? Like maybe 10, 11, or
Yeah,
something like
something like
that.
that. And his father makes shoes, but he's a bad cobbler.
And his
And
father is played by Jack Gilford, and this is all live action.
mhm.
And you'd recognize, if you don't know who Jack Gilford is, and I hope I'm saying his name correctly, I think you'd recognize him. He's I think a familiar face. Done all sorts of
Yeah.
character work over the years.
I mean, but were you so excited when you saw Mrs. Clobble Blobber?
Oh my stars! I couldn't believe it. Well, I mean, when her name popped up in the credits, the opening credits, I just thought, "Are you kidding me?"
And because Mrs. Clobble Blobber is played by Margaret Hamilton of Wicked Witch of the West.
AKA the Wicked Witch of the West, the Wizard of Oz. Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel really bad because I think her life was just kind of ruined because she was just
Just
so that
typecast,
part.
right?
And I say that, but it weirds me out when I hear her voice. It's so iconic to that part, and that's the worst. But as I feel bad for, but it's nevertheless true that as soon as I hear that voice, I gotta just chill up my spine.
Yeah, just think of the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah,
instantly.
It's so iconic, and so and Ray Bolger is the Pie Man. So and
this random Pie Man.
Yeah, he's trying to get his dad to not make him study as much. He doesn't like studying. And then there's these weird animated mice that are giving advice to his dad and that are helping him make the shoes, and they looked really terrible even for 1966. But there's not like it feels really messy as far as the narrative. There's not like a clear kind of starting.
There's not a clear cut. Yeah. So Hans Christian Andersen gets like, who's that man that like takes him away or whatever?
The Pie Man.
Yeah. Well, there's the Pie Man, but then there was also the
Sandman.
The Sandman is like his muse, kind of, right?
Sandman comes and takes him into the world of stories.
Yeah.
And the Sandman, it's like the cheapest like visual effect you could ever have.
What would you even call it? I know.
I'm pretty sure that like Little House on the Prairie had better visual effects. Like this thing was, I mean, it looked like I don't know.
It was like a piece of tissue paper that they just would kind of like dangle in front of the camera.
Yeah, it did. It looked like kind of a wave of TV current or whatever. And and I don't know. I just feel like for some reason sometimes things can be low budget and they can be really kind of charming.
They can be charming.
Yeah, but for some reason it doesn't. Like if you compare it to, I don't know, something like Rocks in My Pockets, which is all really small and stop motion and obviously that's for adults, but it feels like somebody's vision. It feels like somebody's aesthetic. It feels like, even though it's on a small budget, and this just feels cheap.
Oh yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the Sandman, it looks kind of like natural gas is what I said in my notes, like a blue. It doesn't look sandy at all, It's
really weird, and he's kind of blue, right? I mean, there kind of varies in color, but it's not sand.
It does the low budget really well this is the 80s, but did you ever watch the old Fairy Tale Theater?
Oh yeah.
Shelley Duvall.
Yeah.
I loved those growing up. We used to get them from the rental store. We would get the Fairy Tale Theaters, and I have them all on DVD. I loved them so much, and they would have really hokey special effects and really silly.
But it worked.
But it was so fun. I loved those. And so it starts out at the Garden of Paradise, and basically, like, this whole thing is supposed to be to convince Christian to study. That it's going to be worth it for him. And so he's going to be taken to see all these different stories that end up becoming his books, is the very thin narrative that they have. But they go to the Garden of Paradise, and it's where all knowledge flows. And then we get to the first story is with the Little Mermaid. And, anybody knows how much I love the Disney Little Mermaid. But this one, it has Hayley Mills as the Little Mermaid. And
she's the voice.
It is more accurate to the book, to the story, than the Disney version. And it's probably my favorite part.
Yeah. I agree. I think it's probably, mine too. But if I can say I have a favorite part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because she exchanges vows with the Sea Witch in order to save Chris's life, and then he basically like leaves her. He doesn't care, and she sings "Wishes and Teardrops" as a song, and it's very sad, which is like the original story. But she was cute at least. And then we get in the live action, he gets a duck, and I guess that was supposed to be an allusion to the ugly duckling later on.
Yeah,
but they never really do it. They never tell us the story.
Exactly.
So it's just kind of an Easter egg, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so as a live action Chris, he meets these tailors, and then it starts him down into the animated world, and we get the Emperor's new clothes, and that's when they sing "Simply Wonderful," which was fine, I guess. And
they all, as you said, all those songs sound so much alike. I think it's because they were all written by the same guy. Mm-hmm. It's this guy named Mari Laws, and who was the composer.
Pumped them out, these songs.
Yeah.
Like, none of them have any of the something. Obviously, Rudolph, that song was written beforehand, and then they made the movie off of it. But even for the Year with No Santa Claus, the "Hey, Mr. Snow," like that whole
the Heat Miser and the
nothing with any of that kind of fun. They're all pretty generic.
Yeah.
Pretty generic. And okay, then and it's all right. The Emperor's New Clothes, like, it's okay. But nothing special. And then there's a really bizarre live action sequence where Christian gets arrested.
Yes.
And that becomes later on it becomes the Big Claws story.
Yes.
For Hans Christian Andersen. And he sings "Luck to Sell," it's called, about how he's got luck to sell because he's had such bad luck and being arrested and everything. And it just feels so weird because they've just been having all these stories, and all of a sudden you get this weird live action part, and we haven't had any time really with the live action Chris except for that little bit with his dad. So it's pretty weird.
It's just weird. Yeah. That's just really the only thing you can just say is like, wow, this is weird.
Right. And so then we get Thumbelina. And
yes, voiced by Patty Duke.
Yeah. And
although I think that they clearly amped up, did some weird stuff to her voice, right?
Mm-hmm.
I
wondered about that because it didn't sound like I think of Patty Duke.
Yeah, it's just like they took it and then put some really interesting electronic effects on it.
Yeah,
auto-tune from 1960. Or something. It just didn't. It was weird because they were trying to make her sound small, although Chris was her same size.
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah, and he's really down on the fact that he's so small, and they sell Thumbelina to the sold by the rat to marry the mole, which is part of the story.
Yeah, and the rat, if I'm not mistaken, was voiced by Boris Karloff.
Oh, I think you're right. Yeah. And which I am a bit of a defender of the Don Bluth Thumbelina. I don't think it's as bad as people say, but the Marry the Mole song is horrible.
Yeah,
I hate that song.
It was painful.
It was really bad. I admit it goes a long way to me, the fact that Jodie Benson is Thumbelina. I love her singing so much. But that was actually an early obscure animation that I did by myself before you joined in.
Yeah.
Thumbelina, so you're free. You won't have to review it.
I have to watch that one again. Although I think it's on Disney Plus.
Is it? Yeah, but But yeah, so it's so unpleasant. This whole they're marrying off Thumbelina, and there's this whole "Isn't It Cozy" song, which I think is right up there with "Marry the Mole" in bad songs.
Yes. Yes.
And there's all these insects, and it's just gross. And basically, like, Chris decides he doesn't want to be little anymore, and he escapes. And there's a giant bullfrog. And that's it. We don't really find out much more about Thumbelina.
I know. It's just like, well, what's happened to Thumbelina? I kept waiting for them to come back and, like provide some closure.
Yeah. No, we don't. We don't get anything. And so then they go to the Garden of Paradise, and I guess this is supposed to be Adam and Eve. There's
it
tree of
sure
knowledge.
Feels like Adam and Eve.
Yes.
And again, and it's weird because it's like it's all kind of in light tones, almost even as like it's all could be like white, right?
There's the
whole
knowledge.
set there that they put the animagic characters in, and
and if he does, he'll be lost to the valley of nothingness, and so and then he's tempted to eat the fruit by a character named Puck. And then basically everything kind of explodes, and he's back, and because he's woken up by the game warden, and then he's gotten out of his rest, and then they don't have any money, and there's a whole song about his father has paid for his bail with the wedding ring from his mother, and there's a whole song about doing math at the end, doing the table.
Yeah.
And then we just find out at the end that, oh, look, he used all of these for his stories later on. So
and then it's over.
That's it.
And you're grateful. I mean, I was grateful that it was over, but
I was too.
But it just was so weird because it just seemed like the ending was really abrupt, kind of like the ending of every story, within the film was abruptly ended.
Yeah,
it's really a weird movie.
It is. It really, I agree. So yeah, I mean, I guess, I don't know, give it like a 3 out of 10.
Yeah, I mean, I gave it 1 out of 5 stars.
Yeah,
but
2 or a 3. 2. Yeah, it's a rough set. So then the Mad Monster Party,
which was released a year later in 1967.
Oh, was it? That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah,
it feels rushed. Basically, you have in this one, you have Frankenstein. Dr. Frankenstein is working in his lab. And the thing I thought about almost all of this movie is that I didn't think that the music was spooky enough. Like, he's working on you'd expect it to be like, ooh.
Yeah, and instead they were just going for like kind of groovy 1960s type of music. Yeah.
Like in Frankenweenie, the music is way more atmospheric or something like that.
Yeah, this music wasn't atmospheric at all. It just seemed very much of the time period.
And the music was very loud in certain points. The mix of it, sometimes it was hard to hear what the characters were saying. It was so loud.
Yeah, agreed. The one thing I guess that it didn't really completely hook me, but the puppets they designed for this, because they're all from characters that we know.
Right.
These are all established, book and movie monsters. And those I thought were fun. The way that they designed the animagic puppets.
I agree. I think that this opening credits sequence where they're all getting their invitations to the party, I thought was fun, and it had some energy to it. And so I thought it was probably the best part of the movie.
Yeah, I think the opening credits were for sure the the best part, the
Mm-hmm.
best part of the movie. But it's Dr. Frankenstein. He is going to retire,
Right.
and so he's going to turn everything over to his kind of his long lost nephew, right? And if I'm remembering the story correctly, if I wasn't half asleep, I think I was. I think I was awake. And then he's inviting all of the people, all of the monsters to this announcement, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that kind of thing, so they kind of know what's going on. And that, I agree with you. That's really fun because we get to meet all the different monsters, of which there are many.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah, and this movie was, I think, more made for adults. It was
Yeah.
it was written by the creator of Mad Magazine and had the Magazine artist Jack Davis that was helping with the design. And I
Yeah.
think that helps a lot. I think it gives it just some personality. It gives it
Yes.
some it makes it just have some flair. It's a little bit more fun.
It just
I
has a bit of a zany quality to it, which
Yeah,
helped it.
right.
And yeah, really kind of that Mad Magazine esque. It
Mhm.
shines through,
Yeah.
doesn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think so. And so one thing I thought was weird is there's a character named Felix, and I
Well,
felt like,
Felix is the nephew, right?
yeah, that's going to inherit.
Yeah.
And I thought that were they trying to sound like Jimmy Stewart, because it wasn't Jimmy Stewart.
Yes. It was not Jimmy Stewart, but he was. They were. Yeah. His voice was being imitated by. I mean, the voice character actor, his name is Alan Swift, who voiced the majority of
Yeah.
these characters, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that guy was working overtime.
He was channeling his inner Jimmy Stewart, which
Yeah,
was kind of weird. I
it
mean,
was weird.
yeah, I don't think it necessarily worked, but he was consistent at least with it.
Yeah, he did like 13 characters
Yes,
in this movie, which that's a lost
he
art.
thought.
As
Yeah.
the I mean, there's a couple of this, maybe the Simpsons voice actors, like your
Mm-hmm.
maybe your Harry Shearer and your Hank Azaria,
Hank
who can
Azaria, yeah, who could
change and
pull this
go from
off.
one voice to another voice,
Yeah,
and that he can have conversations with himself, and some of these just amazing voice actors, but you don't see that as much anymore. That people can do that, and so that's pretty cool.
well, and one interesting thing too about it. So the comedian Phyllis Diller
Mm-hmm.
also is a voice in this, and they crafted the puppet to look like her too, which is a trick that they do a lot with their TV specials, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
the characters look like Burl Ives or Fred Astaire or whoever's narrating.
Well, the
Uh,
thing I thought was weird though is he sounds like Jimmy Stewart, but I didn't feel like his character was a Jimmy Stewart
oh
archetype
no, it
of
wasn't at
character.
all. That's what I thought.
Yeah,
That was such a
I was
weird
like, why?
choice.
Why did they? It was kind of nerdy. He was kind of,
Yeah,
like he wasn't. You'd almost think of more like a Jerry Lewis or somebody like that
yeah.
over somebody like Jimmy Stewart.
I
It
mean,
was.
the only thing that I thought worked with, I mean, I guess that I thought about is often, Jimmy Stewart plays a very earnest kind of character,
Mm-hmm.
and Felix is pretty earnest, pretty genuine, but still, Jimmy Stewart,
Yeah.
whatever.
And yeah, and so Phyllis Diller, she sings
Phyllis Diller.
she sings You're Different, a song called You're Different.
Yeah.
And then there's Dr. Frankenstein. He's retiring. He's going to give everything over to Felix.
And another
And
character he has, as we mentioned, voiced by Boris Karloff.
and
Yeah.
I did feel with Frankenstein, Dr. Frankenstein, he did kind of remind me of Dracula in the Hotel Transylvania movies. In fact,
Yes.
this movie felt like it might as well have been a Hotel Transylvania movie. And I would wonder if Gendy was at all
Influenced by this.
it, or
Mhm.
maybe something.
Yeah, maybe
like
he
that.
enjoyed this, saw this movie as a kid or something, and yeah.
Because it felt very. I think this could be Hotel Transylvania 4. They've got it ready to go.
Yeah.
And there's Yetch, a character named Yetch that keeps losing his head. And I
Yeah,
thought that was a pretty funny gag. That was my
who's kind of I think I thought that was funny too, and they were kind of channeling Peter Lorre for that. I thought for Yetch,
yeah.
just yeah.
That was funny. That was a good gag. And then Dr. Frankenstein, he has this formula that can destroy all of humanity. So all these evil villains want the formula. There's the mad mummy dance at a certain point. And then they sing Our Time to Shine. And and
More
when
music by Marty Laws, where you're just kind of like,
yeah.
Can I fast forward through this?
Yeah, and there was some funny gags with the Invisible Man. And at a point he gets you see him and they say, no wonder you're invisible. You're ugly.
Invisible Man and I thought they used Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I thought that humor was pretty good too.
Yeah.
Again, very Mad Magazine kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
They're playing it for laughs rather than for scares.
Right. And there's another song, One Step Ahead, which is sung by Dr. Frankenstein. He's talking to Felix. And then Felix and Francesca fall in love. And
yes, it turns out that Francesca is a creation of Dr. Frankenstein, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And there's kind of a fun fireworks sequence with them that I liked. I thought that was cool. And the ending was kind of, did you feel like it was sort of an homage to Some Like It Hot?
Yeah,
and he's like,
absolutely.
Well, none of us are perfect. Francesca.
I thought the same thing. It's totally Some Like It Hot. And again, like as you were saying, only adults are going to get that, right? The parents that have taken their kids to this. Yeah.
Yeah, the island is destroyed. And yeah, you see Felix and Francesca, and that she says, I'm a creation of Dr. Frankenstein, and he says, well, none of us are perfect.
Yeah. One of the things I thought was maybe what I thought was the most interesting, Rachel, not that there really was one, in this, but at least in a positive way, but the sets that they built for the Animagic characters. Mm-hmm. Occasionally I thought, oh, that's a pretty cool set. That's a pretty neat room in this castle, or a neat something. And they occasionally, and I only mean occasionally, would have an interesting camera angle of it too. Because that's, I think, one of the challenges of this Animagic is that, and part of it could be, I think we've got there's been more sophisticated movies, and therefore we have more sophisticated tastes. I mean, you compare it to, the work of Henry Selick or stuff that comes out of Leica. I mean, it's amazing, what they're doing. And even though they're using some computers, they're still so much of it's practical, right? With what they're doing. But it's just like the camera is just static, and then the Animagic stuff is happening, and none of it's particularly fluid or interestingly lit or anything. It's just kind of puppets on a stage, and
yeah. I mean, I'd be curious to see what other stop motion animation was happening from other studios during this time period. I mean, the animation in 2D animation obviously was far superior to this. Obviously, different art form, but that was. I mean, you just think of something like Sleeping Beauty. That it's just you can't compare. You can't compare them, but yeah, I'd be interested to know what other. I mean, I guess we watched that Gulliver's Travels, but that was way earlier.
Way early, and again, just animated, right? I mean, 2D.
Yeah, but this I think this had some personality. It had some jokes that worked. I wasn't miserable watching it. It was a lot better than the
Yeah.
Daydreamer.
Oh yeah. No question. You compare the two, and it's a lot. It's a lot better than the Daydreamer, but it's still ultimately I just thought it was not very good. I mean, it had, I guess, a bit of a satisfying ending, right?
Mhm.
But it also just felt like it took a really long time to get there.
Yeah, it definitely feels too long. And 95 minutes, and it probably should have been
Going
more like
on like
60.
4 hours, I mean, I just I
Yeah,
wanted to
it should have been more
time
like
warp.
60
Yeah.
minutes, I think, with what they had to go with.
Right.
But
Well, and again, just like we were talking at the top of the top of the podcast, I'm just so accustomed to watching Rankin Bass move, produce shows that were done for TV and
yeah.
that were, these hour-long specials. And what is that total? Like 45 minutes or something, with one of those specials to
Mhm.
accommodate for the commercials,
Right.
right? And
Yeah, 22 minutes.
that seems about right.
Right.
And that's because it still can be kind of cute and charming and you're not tired of it, but these go on for such a long time. That
Mhm.
was yeah, uh, a
Yeah,
challenge.
at
Yeah,
least this doesn't try to get any emotion out of you like
exactly.
Daydreamer and like most of the shorts do.
Yes.
And they take themselves pretty seriously, actually. Even if you
Hmm.
look at Rudolph, you know that it's pretty taking itself pretty seriously.
Yeah.
And I think
This was
that
a real farce,
yeah, this was silly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think it's better. Yeah, it's the I mean, you have the Nestor the long-eared donkey, which is so melodramatic. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Just
Yes.
like I kind of that one I kind of give a little bit of pass to because I think it's so over the top.
Yeah.
Um but yeah, that uh but I think this makes this better. So it's just an hour comedy, and so I think it's more enjoyable that
Yeah, I
way.
agree with you. So the third feature that they showed on that Rankin Bass night on
Uh-huh.
Turner Classic Movies was The Wacky World of Mother Goose, which also came out in 1967, so same year as Mad Monster Party. And I think I've seen it before, like years ago.
Uh-huh.
Um, but I'm glad we didn't. I don't think I could watch the a third one. Yeah.
Yeah, especially after the and is it the Wacky World of Music is that one stop motion or is it regular
Well,
animation?
I think it looks to me like it's mostly regular animation, and I just wonder
Hmm.
if there's some stop motion in it. But actually, it looks like um, it's 2D animation,
Yeah, that looks rough.
all of Frosty the Snowman. You know
Yeah,
that kind of that
right.
style.
You saw what I heard what I thought about Frosty the Snowman.
Yes.
That would be bad. So, if you've seen either of these two, let us know what you think. You think we're being too grumpy,
I
or do
know.
you
I hate
agree
to
with
be so
us?
grumpy, but they were a challenge, definitely.
Yeah, I'd probably give I don't know Mad Monster Party. I'd probably give it a 4.
Yeah, and I think I just gave it a 1 star too.
And you give
Although
it a one star,
it is
4 out of
better.
10. It's
One out of four. I mean, excuse me, 1 out of 5 stars. It is better
oh no, I
than.
4 out of 10.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
It
uh,
is better than uh,
the
the
Daydreamer.
Daydreamer for sure.
Yeah, I'd probably give it two 2 stars out of 5.
Yeah. Okay.
And yeah, and then give the Daydreamer 1. Yeah, a 1. And but it's kind of a good uh kind of if you're talking about obscure animation, I think it's a good one to kind of talk about.
Well,
And
yeah. And again, I felt it was kind of in a way just like a film history lesson because
yeah,
uh, again, I just I felt pretty ignorant just because like I'm
Yeah.
like, really, they made movies? Like
Mhm.
I always thought they did TV
Right.
stuff. So
Well, yeah, let us know if you've seen either of these, what you think, if you enjoyed them. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And yeah, this was fun to get to dive into, and we'll be excited to talk about something else for July's obscure animation, and we'll let you know what that is. And Stanford, where can people find you?
I'm on Twitter at Stanford Clark, and I have a movie podcast and blog at moviespastandpresent.com.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So make sure to check that out. And if you're listening to the podcast on iTunes, please leave us your ratings and reviews. And if you are listening on YouTube, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that's so much. We have our merch store, which you get #Animation Junkies t-shirts. And we also have our patron group, which you can give all kinds of suggestions for obscure animation and any other podcasts that we're doing. And we so appreciate that help in the patron group. And thanks so much. And yeah, we'll talk next month.
Hey, thanks.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.